So this topic is one I sort of touched on in my previous video, but I got some comments that made me want to tackle it a little more in depth. Are invaders supposed to lose? This question comes from the idea that invaders exist solely for the host's benefit, that their only role is to give the player a difficult challenge that they should ultimately overcome, and invaders should accept that they're intentional losers who need to take their beatings without whining. Usually when I see this idea come up, it's referencing a Famitsu interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki about Demon Souls, where he is talking about the mechanic of invasions and whether or not player killing was the intention. I can't find a proper full translation of the interview, and can only find sections posted on Reddit and other social media, likely due to the interview being from 2009, so in lieu of a full translation, I used the Wayback machine and the automatic Google Translate to double-check the reference. And from everything I can glean from that interview, every snippet I can find that supposedly supports the idea that invaders are supposed to lose, it all boils down to a misunderstanding of the original design philosophy as we've entered the modern Souls era, and the context in which Miyazaki's response is framed, along with some player baggage we'll get into. When discussing player killing or PvP, I get the impression that the interviewer is simply commenting on how rare it is for a game to allow one player to victimize another with those mechanics. It's controversial because it is unusual and integrates a high degree of friction. They want to know if there was opposition to its inclusion. In response, Ken Kaji, a producer on Demon Souls who was also being interviewed, mentions he was against including invasions and was very careful about putting them in. Miyazaki's response is that the intention wasn't to include player killing for the sake of PvP, but rather to include it as a means of roleplay. Because Souls games, from Demon Souls to Elden Ring, are all RPGs. They are designed to let you play a role. Miyazaki is stating he doesn't see invasions as a way to facilitate a PvP match or simply let one player kill another. It's about the context of that violence. His vision is to have players take on the role of powerful, roaming enemies who pose a serious risk to the host. In that context, the invader takes on the role of predator and the host takes on the role of prey. Nowhere in that statement is there a presumption of who should win or who should lose, or how the matches should play out, just a vision and an attempt to realize it. But one interview and some discussion online isn't enough to come to any conclusions. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. When we consider the game balance, especially in Elden Ring, it's clear that FromSoft is trying to address invader power. They've made it more difficult to abuse gear in the early game, they've given the host team considerable advantages, and they've moved PvP to an entirely optional mechanic. It would seem they are concerned that invaders have been too strong and too able to outmatch the average player, and are taking steps to reduce their effectiveness. Now, whether or not this aligns with the original design philosophy of invasions doesn't really matter. What matters is how it affects invasions today. It's why I asked in my last video how hard invasions should be. Is the balance of Elden Ring right, or was it better before? And that question is predicated on whether or not invaders are supposed to lose. If so, then Elden Ring doesn't go far enough. Invaders can still win by playing to their few advantages, and FromSoft needs to do more to stop them. They need to remove rot as a PvP mechanic, and level lock players based on how many bosses they've killed and areas they've entered. They need to give hosts a downed mechanic, where whenever they're dropped to 0 hit points by an invader, they can crawl around and have their teammates revive them. Also, invaders get half health and they can't switch weapons or run. In case my position is at all unclear, I do not think invaders are supposed to lose. I don't think that's how games work, and I don't think that people arguing for that position really believe it either. By which I mean they believe they're actually just talking about the game's balancing and framing it poorly. Because as far as balancing is concerned, yes, invaders have worse odds. The fight is not designed for fairness in the general sense, and if an invader fights 3 cooperators without any level support, they will typically lose. But that does not mean they are supposed to lose. They are supposed to roleplay as a powerful enemy who roams the level, seeking out the host to kill them. They are supposed to use the level to their advantage and oppose the host by whatever means necessary. The details of that opposition are questions of balance, not predetermined outcome. Now, I get why people feel that a loss is intentional when invading. The odds are stacked terribly for anyone not doing everything they can to stack advantages. It's a real uphill battle, and it is not one that feels especially rewarding. Elden Ring invading frequently sucks fucking ass. But even if invasions have fallen so far from their former glory, it would go against every other design goal to have invaders, who are players mind you, actively engage in a mechanic that is not to their own benefit. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone do that? Why would it be in the game if all they wanted was for invaders to show up and lose for the host's benefit? You can approach the conversation the same way with NPCs. Is Margit supposed to lose to the player? Or is he supposed to oppose the player to the best of his ability and challenge them to rethink their strategies, helping them improve? Of course, with NPCs, the presumption is that eventually the player will triumph because the NPCs have no agency or will. Invaders are that same sort of challenge, except they aren't NPCs. They fill a similar role, but are distinctly different because they have agency. They are as much a part of the design and intended experience as the host is, both playing their role in a game for both their own benefit and the benefit of the other. Put simply, as much as the invader is designed to help the host improve, so too is the host designed to help the invader improve. I'm of the opinion that the mindset behind anyone who hates invasions or thinks invaders are supposed to lose is one that imagines the host as the protagonist, the main character, instead of just another participant. It's their world and it's their game, so everyone else serves their interests. Cooperators are their servants and invaders their fodder. But multiplayer games aren't books or movies. They aren't single POV stories for one person. They are collaborative experiences in which every player has a role. Cooperators aren't simple toadies looking for a boss for whom they can goon. They're players looking to assist other players. Their role is diminished to that of secondary heroes by mechanical design, but their goals are of equal importance. And the same is true of invaders. What they want matters every bit as much as what the host wants because they are players just the same. If the wants and needs of every other participant other than the host didn't matter, that'd be a pretty shitty experience. Arguably, it is in Elden Ring moving the balance so much in that direction that has damaged invasions so badly, where it really feels like invaders are there to buzz around the host and get swatted away. So I understand why people think invaders are supposed to lose, why they feel they shouldn't complain when they get stomped by gankers, because that's their job. The balance isn't where it needs to be, and it gives the impression that FromSoft truly hates invaders. But in that same interview, Miyazaki states his favorite boss was the old monk because it was such a unique thing. It let players become a boss and oppose other players. He repeatedly talks about how much he likes the Black Phantoms and how while it isn't a perfect implementation, it's among his favorite mechanics. Miyazaki does not hate invaders. From Software does not hate invaders. I think some people at From Software, possibly even most of them, don't understand invaders, but I don't believe they hate them either. It's just that they don't know how to approach their audience. When Demon's Souls came out in 2009, it was niche. The difficulty was a barrier, and the developers were concerned it would put people off. But it worked out because they stuck to their design principles and believed in what they were doing. Now, more than 15 years later, they're one of the most popular developers with huge industry influence. Trying to appeal to more types of players, especially those who would not have embraced Demon's Souls, fundamentally alters their approach. Not necessarily for the worse, but also not inherently for the better. Elden Ring is different. Invasions are different. The players are different. But the core values remain, however faint. So are invaders supposed to lose? No. They have just as much right to a win as the host. They'll have to fight harder for those wins, maybe even too hard sometimes, but they can and should win just like everyone else. and better invaders can make for better hosts, so long as those hosts are willing to adapt. Just as better hosts can make for better invaders. It's exactly the sort of problem Demon's Souls and every game after have been trying to prepare players for. We all just need to get good. Hopefully this video was completely unnecessary and everyone watching understands the distinction between invasions being intentionally lopsided and being predetermined. It's just one of those things that I worry corrupts the community's mindset when misconstrued, especially when weaponized against a subset of that community. The last thing I want is for people to presume invasions are pointless because AI has progressed far enough to do their job because they don't understand art or how to be a fucking person. Like the video if you enjoyed me elaborating on my already niche takes, dislike the video if you think I should abandon YouTube and rejoin my group Iron Man, and subscribe to find out which one I decide. Until next time, thank you for watching.